because that's my ambition. My ambition is to be this extremely strong man who's able to handle business on multiple fronts. But the average person, right, is people watching this right now that's like, that's ridiculous. That's me doing everything. That's me having to be, shoulder all of the responsibilities. So what do you say to the man that's not comfortable with receiving that message from you?
Brother, to be honest, for the man that's uncomfortable taking in the information, he is a disease to his family on every level. Financially, spiritually, mentally, intellectually, he is a dis-ease, meaning everywhere he goes, he brings a dis-ease type of energy.
Wow. Damn. Yeah, that's kind of one of those. We had to let that one breathe.
You got to let that one breathe.
Oh,
and it's a hard message to swallow, especially for a lot of brothers, because when I'm really seeing the responses that these brothers are putting in the comments, and even have talked to brothers who understand and believe this, what I hear is that these brothers on a deep level don't really believe it is possible to put themselves at a position where they can bear that level of a responsibility. Whether that be they have never seen or been exposed to men who are able to create this level of abundance, and they've been, entrenched in such poverty and has really adopted this scarcity mindset, maybe grown with a single mom that struggled, or grown in a household where everybody was penny pinching and it was that true struggle. So they don't even really see that as a possibility. So when you having this conversation with them, it's like, yo, inflation is kicking our behinds right now. You got the average. We need to make, 120,000 as a household to be able to live comfortably.
Yo, what was that comment that you talked about the guy made on Yada's post?
I mean, that was so childish.
No, but see, the thing is, that gives you the collective mindset of the person that might be hearing this.
A brother in the comments put, we can't all be some rich guy picking, herbs in the jungle like you are, whatever the case is. Because obviously Yada's known for, putting out great supplements for the people. But
it was really, it really gave you an insight to his mindset, because that was, we can't all be happy. We can't all be financially free and capable to accomplish these feats that you have. That's what it meant. That's what.
Hey guys, welcome to Lord Blackburn 91. This particular video, listen, I was watching part of it yesterday. I'll do a full breakdown another day, but I'm going to do a quick half-an-hour one. I like to do those things, right? And I want to talk about this situation. I think this is a really good conversation to tap into. 50-50 men are not real men. They are disease unto women. Let me first by saying this, right? It took me a while to shift my position and understanding from 50-50 to going to quote unquote full provider, right? Because I had a different idea of what relationships were like. I'm a very person that's very much invested in just things. I do me, you do your part. I do this, I do that, your part, right? I didn't fully understand the schematics and the dynamics of how relationships needed to be from my perspective. And I didn't understand my role as a man fully in the provisional aspect when it came to finances. But I think this conversation is a very, real conversation. And what I loved about it is because it elevated men. It means there's a higher bar for us as men. I think what was good about the conversation was that it touched on many points about how we're kind of falling short in the areas of the household and what provision looks like. It's more than just finances, it's emotional, mental, spiritual, etc., etc. And I love that part as well. I think also as well, having different perspectives on the conversation was really good as well. They had other people come in and converse and speak about the topic. And I think that was great additions to it as well. And actually the gentleman actually speaking, Yada talks also, he was actually quite good as well. I liked some of the points that he actually made and I understood it, in terms of like, taking the burden away from the woman and being in a place of servitude and being in a place where you are helping the woman be able to rest in her full femininity. I totally heard it, understood it, and I got it. And I said, okay, I'm hearing where you're going. It's a hard message, but I actually do get what you're saying. I think where I'm going to have issue with the message, and I really struggle with this message, because I feel like I feel like when people do this, I feel like either they're not being genuine about the message they're delivering, or they are lacking nuance and they don't know how to stop projecting themselves onto other people. Let me make clear what I'm trying to say. As the title says, right, and you watch the video in the very first minute or so, they were talking about mindsets of men. And let me be very real with you. 50-50 must be defined first and foremost what it means to each individual person. Are we saying 50% of the finances and we're saying 50% of the household? Because I think some of the conversations that I've had on my channel about 50-50 is that a lot of women say, for instance, we might do 50-50, but he's not doing 50% of the household chores. Now, that for me is not a good leadership. from a man's perspective. If you quote unquote agree to do 50-50 financially, that would mean for me that there are 50% that comes in the household chores, that comes with the kids, etc., whatever, right? I expect you to pull your weight in that particular arena as well. And I think that, first of all, that must be defined by each individual person, what they mean by 50-50 when they say 50-50, right? Taking a more generic approach, let's just say 50-50 is finances. You both bring something to the table. What I don't like is people demeaning men or women for choosing that role. Ideally, we'd all want to be in a position where the man provides everything and the woman's able to be a carer or nurturer and stay-at-home mom if she desires to, or she desires to have a career, right? So generally, ideally, the perfect situation and system that anybody would like to be in is that the man provides all the finances, etc., and the woman she gets to choose whether she wants to be a career or she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. I think that's the ideal. What I do not like, and I think it's actually disingenuous to do so, and I think it's actually dangerous to start doing that, is now to start qualifying men as not being men because they can't provide 100%. I want to make it very, very clear, and I said this on the video when he did the original viral video. I said, that's not how we qualify who a man is. We don't qualify them because they can't pay 100% of the bills. And we have to start being nuanced. And I really hate this as well. Stop bringing God into what you're saying. That is not what God has said. What I hate is people who are saying they're Christians or God or whatever they say, and they start bringing God into stuff and don't explain the nuance of the situation. Show me a scripture where it says that the man provides everything, and if he doesn't, he's not a man. It's never said that. Even reading Genesis 3 and talk about the curse that happened to both man and woman, it says a woman will bear children, but she'll have pain from it. And the man will till the ground, right? There's nothing there about a man paying 100% of the bills or 100% of resources he must bring to the table or whatever, or he should provide everything. There's nothing of that. What we do have as a blueprint is that God himself, being a man, provides, sets up a blueprint for us to follow as a woman and to submit to the plan that he has for us. Great. That's the ultimate objective. But we understand that we're living in life, not everyone's going to be there. And this is why I said about having faith according to the Bible talks about in Mark 4, where it talks about the parable of the seed, the sower of the seed. And there's 30, 60, 100-fold. Is everybody 100-fold? No. Some people are 60, some people are 30. And we have to stop doing this blanket statement on these kind of subjects because we're trying to, and I feel like it's almost like we're trying to pander. And I feel like sometimes we're trying to be viral. That's how it feels like sometimes, because the conversation doesn't have nuance and it's frustrating. It's like, y'all ain't trying to have no nuance about the conversation. Like, you don't want to have the nuance. You just want to be able to say this point and say it in a particular way. And it's because, again, oftentimes we're projecting our position and our grace that we have as individuals and putting on to others. My situation is not my brother's situation. He's married, he's with his wife. My situation financially is not his situation financially. I don't expect it to be. Right? Because God has given us different gifts. And in fact, when we read Matthew 24, we want to talk about Bible, Matthew 25, parable of the talents. Some were given 10, some were given 5, some was given 1. It's about what you do with that particular 1 or that 5 or that 10 that you do it with. We have to stop this kind of blanket statement saying that men are not men because they can't provide 100% of the bills. It's nonsense. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. It's not real. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a way that we live life. The statistics even back up what we're saying here, right? That even for those who earn 100K, especially in USA, in UK is even worse. I mean, listen, you know what I mean, right? In the US, for instance, it's up to 10 to 13% of people that earn over 100K. It's not a lot of people, right? The average salary is around 33,000. What are we doing 30,000? You can't pay all bills on 33,000. Let's stop this nonsense. It's ludicrous. It's frustrating, and it doesn't build men up. It actually just tears them down because we're not dealing with the reality. Now, if we're saying, listen, brothers, the ultimate, where I want you guys to get to, where I want men to come to, it doesn't mean you're not a man if you can't do this, but this is where you want to be at your ultimate because it gives you the ability to rest in your full masculinity and for her to rest in her full femininity. That doesn't mean that she's not feminine. It doesn't mean he's not masculine. We're talking about the ideal perfections of a relationship where we want to be. We want to be at you ideally want to be able to pay all the bills, all of this, all of that is important because what happens then is that you as a man, you feel good. Even your ego feels good when you're able to pay everything. Let's be honest. As an ego thing for a man, it feels good to even be able to pay for everything, right? And it feels good for a woman to be able to have a choice, whether she wants a career, whether she wants to work from home or be a stay-at-home mom, right? So those are the ideals. But we must also deal with the fact that we are living in this current society as it is. If everybody's walking through a door, who opens it? There are winners and there are losers. There are 100K, 200K, 300K, 500K, 1 million, 10 million, 10 billion. If you're at 1 million, why can't you be at 10 billion then? Because there's a grace that's given onto every man and every woman, and we need to stop this blanket statement. It does more damage than it actually does good, right? It does more damage than it does good because it doesn't inspire hope. What we need to be getting to a place of understanding is that these situations, right? Even if, and again, as well, and it doesn't take into account the current crop of society, right? We talk about, for instance, I think one of the parts he was talking about was, for instance, a man, you know, and I believe as well, right? Let's say you earn 40K, living according to your means. I love that. But if she earns 40K too, does she want to live on your 40K? If you earn 40K, I'm going to tell you, it's hard pressed to find women that are going to be like, I'm just going to, if I earn 40, if she earns 40K too, she's going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to rest and let you work it out and see how long you're going to take before you get to 100K, 200K, you know, to help us live this life. It's not a feasible situation, right? Because a lot of our generation, unfortunately, are not our current crop of, are not our parents' generation. Our patience is very much more thinner. We want things now. We want it done now, today, fast. So if she's earning 40K and you're earning 40K, what should be discussed is putting our heads together. And of course, listen, if you get to a place you want to be able to earn more, fantastic. Let's push you a bit more. You know what I mean? I think that is a more encouraging message. And I think, and I say that because I think we are trying to put everybody in the same ability when it comes to racing. Not everyone's Usain Bolt. I keep saying this, right? But you want everyone to be Usain Bolt. Not everybody's in the final heat of a race. Some people make it to the heats. Some people never made it to the Olympics. Some people were in the preliminary, but they're running their race. So when I say that this is it's not an encouraging message, what I mean to say is that it doesn't take into account the factors that are happening in society. I am not saying men should get a pass. I'm actually saying they should lift the bar up. That we say, listen, men, this is where you want to be, right? And if you know you're not doing everything you can do to grow and to excel, then you are actually failing your family, and you are failing your leadership role. If you're saying to you that if you're saying to yourself that you're not doing everything you can do, then we've got a problem. I've become aware that, listen, when we talk from a place of privilege, we have to be very, very careful. Let's not talk from a place of privilege. If you've been given a grace to be able to make 100K, 200K, I've been given a grace. I work a job on YouTube. I'm here in Ghana for the next 2 months. Does everybody have the same grace? Oh, but you can do it too. No, you can't. The job that you're doing doesn't allow you to. And you may not have the skill set to. And it may not be your destiny to. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Like when we start doing that, we take the nuance out of a situation. It may not be. The message is for who it's called to be. So we've got to start putting that nuance. First and foremost, this message is for those who are called for this message, because it's not for everybody. But what I'm not going to do is then condemn other people who don't have ears to hear that message because it wasn't for you. And so I'm not going to condemn you and say you're not a man because you do 50-50. Right? Now, where I will condemn you is if you know you're doing 50-50 and you ain't helping in the household. Where I will condemn you is you're doing 50-50, but you ain't contributing towards the cooking, the cleaning, the children, none of that stuff. Then we're not doing 50-50 at that point. At that point, what you're doing is you're enslaving your wife. Right? And I would agree with that point. Do you get what I'm saying to you? I would absolutely 100% agree with that point. And so I feel like these are fallacies that get brought up into these conversations because we're trying to go viral. It's not about really actually helping people. It's about virality. That's what I mean. When you really think about that person, this person is smiling. This person got financial and time freedom. This person is picking their own herbs out their own garden. And we can't do that.
And I'm gonna be honest. Every brother that we brought up here, and I told y'all this before we even had this conversation, because we have interviews, but I guess before, during, and after the show. And so the best conversation is off camera. And the reality of the situation is, y'all see the caliber of brothers we have on here. I like to get into the brother's family, and I like to ask how they managing that part of their life. I'm gonna be honest, I have not had one brother who has ever been on this Harley Initiative platform that said that they are in a 50-50 situation with their woman. And that's not to say that they were not in a situation where they said my woman held me down at this point in my life because I was down bad. Or at the beginning of the relationship, I wasn't all the way together and she held down that part of the relationship. But eventually, the thing is, eventually they all had ambitions and desires to change that. They were uncomfortable in that part. And that's the scariest part of that. Those brothers, they have complete comfort.
Yes.
Knowing that their woman is
Wait, now see, because I want to challenge this. And I'm just the voice of the people right now.
Be the voice.
And I think this is great. I think this is great because I want to open this up, Yada, because we actually have somebody sent over a super.
I think there's and also, again, I want to be very clear too, right? You know, I want to say this, right? You may not be well-versed or skilled or resourced in the area of finances. Maybe you're not great at that, all right? Maybe you're not great at that. And maybe that's not your area of expertise. Maybe you're better in the household, whatever you want to call it, right? The brothers he brought up on that place, on that platform, do you know why you brought men who won't do 50-50? Because they're already established in what they're doing. You only called them because they're already established. That's the whole reason why they're not doing 50-50, because they're already grown and established and have their beacon of light. That's how you saw them. You know what I'm saying to you? Don't make that now as that is the blue, not to say blueprint, to say that, there isn't any other men out there. The majority of men cannot afford to pay all the bills. Is that real? They can pay their own bills. I absolutely hear that 100%. They can't pay all the bills, right? And again, depending on what we call all the bills as well, right? If we're saying all the bills, what do we mean? Do we mean the household and then the electricity, Then obviously there's a conversation that needs to be had about what living arrangements we're actually having. If we're saying paying all the bills, we're just talking specifically about the household and the bills. If that is the case, I think a lot of men can do that, because if you're paying your own bills, you can pay the bills of the household. I don't think that's much more difficult. Do you get what I'm saying to you, right? In that particular case, right? It's the extra stuff that comes with it. It is the insurances. It is the holidays. It is the miscellaneous stuff, the clothing and stuff like that, right? They also take account into finances as well, okay? And obviously maybe upkeep and maintenance of your woman too, which can also be included in that as well, which can also be costly as well, right? So all of that, all that can all be happening, right? And so again, the men that he's brought up on the platform, of course, they have already a beacon and a light. That is why you chose them. So they're not going to do 50-50. They're going to be men who are going to be financially resourced. That's how you saw them. And so what I'm saying is, please, let's have nuance in this conversation. Let's have nuance in this conversation. The majority of men and women are not that level, right? Majority of men are not that level, and majority of men will never come out of that space. We need to stop pretending that the stats don't be the stats. Like, I honestly think the stats be the stats, right? The stats be the stats. And so when the stats are speaking and telling you that, listen, majority of people are not going to have a situation where they're going to pay 100% of the bills, we need to stop having conversations at a higher altitude when in reality when we're trying to speak down to the majority. Then speak for the elite. But don't condemn the men or the women in that space down there. Specifically the men, because I like, I think this is a message for the men. I want to defend them as well a little bit as well, to understand, because I can understand why they're frustrated at such a message like this. It's downright degrading in some aspects. You know what I mean?
A super chat. Shout out to Faceless Man. Very interesting username, by the way. He says, it's not about comfort. It's about doing what's optimal for your family. I'd argue that if your wife is working and she's not contributing financially, that you are a bad leader. So y'all, let me ask you this. Must a wife's contribution always be financial?
We have to understand the assignments given to us by God. Let's do the mathematical equation of that. A man is supposed to be 100% provider and protector. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Can we agree that a woman is supposed to be 100% nurturer?
Yeah.
Or can we agree that a child is supposed to be 100% child?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, now let's do the math. You have man only doing 50% of his job, meaning the woman has to come and do 50% of his job and also 50% of her job. So she's doing 50% providing, 50% nurturing. So if she's unable to nurture 100%, who?
Now, if she's doing 50% of nurturing and 50% of providing, he should be providing and 50% nurturing too. That's the whole point. That's what I'm talking about. Straight. See, that doesn't even make sense. Listen where you're about to go, right? And this is why I said that we need to be careful about the nuances. right? Because some people are not in that space. And if you're a blessed woman or a man who is in that space, brilliant. We love it. You are in that space. You are part of the minority, not the majority. Lovely stuff. But listen to what you just said there, right? A man says 50%, and a woman's going to do 50% of the finances and then 50% of the nurturing. Well, you're supposed to fill the other 50%. The man is supposed to fill the other 50% of the nurturing. That's what we should be saying. And that's what I'm saying about bringing that level up, right? That's what I'm saying about bringing that level up again. I agree with bringing the level up, but let's nuance the conversation. That part there, 50%, if you're paying 50% of the bills because you can't afford to pay all the bills to make this situation work, fantastic. Okay, great. And then the woman gets involved, 50% of bills too, y'all are 50-50, right? At that point. Okay, and then she's doing 50% of nurturing, fine. You're supposed to then do 50% as a man. That is what you're supposed to do. As a good leader, you're supposed to fill in. Right? You're supposed to fill in. So in reality, what I'm saying in this aspect is that again, we're missing a part of that conversation. Where I want to elevate the man is if you know you haven't got it like that financially, where you should be picking up is in the household. Don't let her have a whole struggle, like you were saying, trying to be almost 100% as a nurturer, but 50% of the working financially, sorry, and then you're not filling in that part. That is selfish, and it's not good leadership, and it's not servitude. It's not servitude, right? It's not servitude. It's not servitude.
Who picks up her slack? The child. And that's why the child is always raising the siblings. And some children are closer to the one that raised them, their brother or sister, than they are their own parent
or grandma.
So listen to me.
Yeah.
Now, man is at 50%, woman's at 100%, child is at 100%. Why do you think they're so upset when you tell them you should be doing more? Don't argue with me, argue with God.
Well, Yada, what about mental health? Because I think that's one of the things that, those same people also
see, and that's, I don't like this, that aspect. Don't argue with God. That is not even of God. You're like, don't be putting God in this situation. I don't like when people do that, because it means we can't argue the point. Don't put God into that situation. You know what I mean? Like, don't go into that situation like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't take us to a point where, at the end of the day, we're saying that, this is not of God, because then it means we can't argue the point, right? Because you're saying you have to argue with God, and that's not necessarily what God has said. Again, I want to bring nuance to the conversation once more again. Okay. All right. And that's what I'm talking about. Listen, I 100% believe, okay, first and foremost, and I keep saying this, if everybody walks through the door, who opens it? If everybody runs a business, right? If everybody runs a business, who buys? Because there are some people who run a bit. There's a lot of people that run a business, and some people do that. Some people are consumers. There are a lot of people who are producers. Some are consumers. Some are service providers. We have to understand in this economical capitalist society, there are winners and there are losers. So long as there are human beings, there are going to be people with more and people with less. It's the reality of life. It's unfortunate. What I'm saying is, let's not diminish those who are not on the level you're on. It's the elitist mindset to be this way. I made it, so you have to. You don't. No. For those who have ears, let them hear. For those who have ears, let them hear. They're supposed to hear it. We don't have to diminish the other people who can't do it or don't have necessarily the skills to do it. And everyone's going to say, like, no, everyone can do it. No, they can't. Because not everyone could be Moses. Not everyone could be Abraham. Not everyone could be Gideon. Not everyone could be David. Not everyone could be this person. They are those people because they have a grace for it. Now, what I will be saying is a better emphasis is that, as a man, I want to be able to lighten the load for your life. You know what I mean? As a person who wants to provide service or serve the party I'm with, I want to know how to lighten your load. And vice versa. I want the woman too, also is to lighten the load. Right? How do you best lighten the load? What I don't like is us bringing Bible into situation and not going through the actual Bible. Do you know that there were some people there were some men that were working for Abraham, Where was their business? Do you know that some people had to sell their children into, quote unquote, we call it slavery, but it wasn't slavery, but into work for other people? Right? So not everyone got that blessing. Not everyone has a business. Not everyone has money. Not everyone is rich. Not everyone is going to be at the top of the tree, because in reality, we're human beings and each person has been given grace for their particular position. But let me scoot back. I wanted to scoot back to the earlier part of the conversation.
About some things that we don't, I mean, I can't even say we don't hear 50-50. We don't hear nothing.
Right.
Nobody talks about how to, you know, provide for a family,
Right.
what the allocations actually look like, what provision looks like.
Right.
So
But when we do, they say stop.
that's a good point.
When we do, they say stop. When we say, nah, it shouldn't be 50-50. Oh, every household is different. Every man, listen, every man is different. So you're telling me God just say, you do 100, you do 50, you do 25, matter of fact, you do 0. And they're not trying to, they're not wondering why their home is stuck in a state of hell. You're going against divine law. You're going against divine order. And when you go against the divine order, all hell breaks loose. Now your woman don't respect you. Your children don't respect you. You're coming home, talking about, can I get a hot meal? Your woman looking at you, can I get a hot meal? Come on, brothers.
So let me ask you this, because just to bring clarity to the conversation, I want to understand, because when you, the brothers, that's 50-50. And I want to bring, because I don't think people understand what that really means if you're new to the conversation. These are brothers who have pretty much taken a pact to say that for the entire duration of their relationship, not a moment or phase. And I think that's the biggest, I think that's the key piece of information. The entire duration of this relationship from start to finish will be us splitting these bills, right? Because I think it's a good argument. What, you know, the brother that might have got married at 21 years old, you know, first of all, at 21 as a man, we still finding ourselves, our identity, our purpose, and we definitely found the paper.
But the only reason, because we weren't properly groomed. When you start going to these foreign countries, they're being taught to be husbands and wives at very young ages. We're not looking for husbands and wives in America. We're looking for someone to help us do our jobs. That's why men say, hey man, 50-50.
See, I wish we would actually tell the truth about what we, and this is why I said about nuance of conversation. We talk about going to other countries. Okay. Let's take Africa, for instance. Yeah. What is the difference in Africa than it is in America or European or the Western world? It's the rights of women. It's a power dynamic between men and women. Right? We don't see, when we do these conversations, we want to be able to use other cultures, but we don't actually talk about the nuance of those cultures. What is the difference with women in those cultures where the man is predominantly dominant? In some countries, a woman can't even drive. Let's not talk about it. In some countries, the women are only property. Let's not talk about it. In some countries, the women are sexual objects and just eats. In some countries, if you even think about breathing back to a man, they have the right to do you dirty. The power dynamics between men and women in those countries are vastly different to what it is in the Western society. We keep talking about using other cultures and not talking about what those cultures actually entail at the same time too. So when we do those comparisons, you must talk about some of the things that are on the other side that are different in order to make it work. In order for it to make it work. And then you have to understand the factors that play into the current crop of society here and what makes it different to what makes it different over there. Cost of living, right? Access to jobs, right? What's the difference between the poor and the rich? Is there a huge gap GDP-wise? Let's not just use things blindly and not understand how differences make how things make a difference. You get what I'm saying to you? I'm in Ghana right now. Let me tell you something, fam. It ain't easy out there, you know. It is not easy out there. You're talking about people can afford to pay all the bills. Yeah. Come here and see and find out. Both people are working their ass off. Because both people are working their ass off in every country. Right? I hate when people try to use God as a way of trying to nestle an argument, and God is not even proving that message. Let's just stick to what we're seeing. The reality of life is that when you go to other countries and you see the economical issues that they're going through, it's the same everywhere. There is people at the very top who can afford to pay all the bills of the person. There are people at the very bottom too who also cannot afford to pay. You get me? So what I'm saying is, let me say this, for instance, right? Let me say this as well, right? I believe we have to encourage men to increase their position, to go for more, to suffer some more, to sacrifice some more. I do. And I've seen my dad do it. I've seen other fathers do it. And, you know, trying to do more. You can only do what you have resources in your hand, right? Otherwise, everybody would be a bloody millionaire, wouldn't they? Right? Everybody would be a millionaire. But the reality situation is not everyone is a millionaire. Otherwise, all of us would be earning over 100K. But the reality is we're not all earning over 100K. Why is that? Is it because some people are lazy? No, let's talk about it. Some of your dads who didn't earn over 100K, were they lazy? Is that why they couldn't earn 100K? Is it because they were stupid? Is it because they were dumb? Is it because they were, aligning themselves with the devil? That's why they couldn't earn 100K and pay all the bills. Listen, we understand that there are different dynamics, different situations, and different times, different economical times. A man that's smart understands the seasons and understands the arena that he's in. The Bible says that Jesus Christ grew in stature and in wisdom and in favor amongst men. And then when he spoke as understanding the people. And that's why he spoke in parables of farming and of agriculture, because he understood the people that were there in that time and that season. Oh, did you not know that when it comes to our generation that we won't have agriculture in the exact same way? Of course he knew. But the message is timeless because he understood about the principles. I'm just saying that I think we need to be very careful how we deliver some of these messages that seem like, and it gives me, I'm trying to pander to the women. These niggas need to get themselves into shape. I do believe a lot of men need to get themselves into shape. Can't lie to you. There are some men need to get into themselves into shape. I'm not gonna lie to you.
50-50, she's my helpmate. A woman helping you do something and a woman doing half of your job is two different things. And this is what they're not understanding. Their women aren't helping them. Their women are doing their job.
So when you say, so let's talk provision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because obviously it's clear
Mm-hmm.
that you stand on the side of provision.
Mm-hmm.
A man's job is to provide.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to walk us through that. What does providing look like from a man on all levels?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that look like at the highest levels?
First, a man, because we have to deal with self. When I choose a woman, or when a man should choose a woman, is because he's comfortable within himself. He loves himself. He's physically right, mentally right, spiritually right, intellectually he's being fed, and financially he's right. Now, when a man chooses a woman, he's not choosing a woman to help him do what he's supposed to do. He's choosing a woman to uplift his lineage, take care of his children. And if he's wise enough and he chooses a good woman, he'll pass her a company and say, baby, nurture this. We have to have vision. Men aren't having vision. And that's why you said a man will get into a relationship and be 50-50 for so long. The woman dies, it's still 50-50. But a man not realizing that he should get into a relationship when he can solely be the provider. Why? Because if the relationship doesn't work, you can still keep your home, you can still keep your car, you can still keep everything you have. But if this woman is making sure you're good half of the way, right? And you're doing half of the way, when that woman leaves, the half leaves with her. So now you can't afford that home. You can't afford that insurance. And this is what the men don't want to accept. Man, you're breaking them women. These are magnificent women. They're beautiful. They're handcrafted by God and given to us as a gift. And everything they touch, they nurture. We cause this.
So I think he's onto something here. I won't lie to you. I think he's onto something here. And I think the message needs to be louder on this part. So I think it's a good message. What he needs to say is this: if you earn 40K, now let's have a real conversation now, right? And this is gonna hurt some people, both men and women. If you earn 40K, you should be buying a house that you can afford to pay by yourself. And even if she feels like she wants to buy a bigger house, you tell her, we're not buying a bigger house. I'm going to say this again. You earn 40K a year. You buy a house that you can afford, and she has to submit to that particular financial understanding. She cannot say she's going to add her money to buy a bigger house. That's it. Right? That's how it should be, right? So if she earns, let's say she earns 40K and you earn 40K, we are only buying a house based on the 40K that you can afford. You're going to see how quickly there's going to be so many fights happening, because what's going to happen is people, and this is why this is what I'm saying, like we have to speak to both men and women. We have unrealistic ideas. I said, that's actually how it should be. It should be that if he's only earning 40K, don't worry about your money. We're only living on 40K. But guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen in this generation? In this generation, not previous ones. In this generation. So let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little bit about the UK market right now. Okay. Let me tell you about the UK market. You know, there are people who make good amount of money. But you know, when you live in a city, like London, and you live in those populated areas, you know, your New Yorks and those kind of things that are there and there, unless you're earning, and again, our financial differences, disparity is very different. Unless you're earning around about 80 to 90K for yourself, you're going to struggle to buy a house on your own in London. Now, you can buy it outside of London, by all means, right? You can buy it outside of London. But then you have to then, if you're going to do that, then potentially the woman that you might date, if you're from London, you might have to now remove her from London, bring her outside of London, and potentially create distance between herself and her family. And a lot of people are not really happy for that, right? That's also another thing you have to make way through. Okay? So again, if we're going to do that, then what's going to happen is we're going to have some real hard conversations. Okay? All right? Both men and women. If you make 40K as a man, and this is what I'm saying, okay? All right? If you make 40K as a man, you've got to buy a house based off that 40K. You can't include her finances. No matter what she says, no matter what she gets upset about, you have to let her know we can't use your income because I have plans of being a sole provider. Now, that's a conversation I can understand. I actually understand that part. That one I actually definitely get. Okay? I definitely get that. Right? Now, what's going to happen is we're going to have a realistic conversation. Guess what? We may need to move. Okay? We may need to move. Okay? We may need to move. Because the area that you're in, you can't afford to buy a house there. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? So it may need to move. You know, so this situation changes. And you're absolutely right, Zaddy outside. I'm gonna come to that point too. I'm gonna come to that point because it's a good point too. Okay. All right. So I think this is why I feel like and so it makes it difficult logistic wise to sometimes do it on a sole income, because you now know that maybe the area you're in to make that 40K, 50K. Again, I'm saying 40K because I want you to understand a lot of you guys in this chat may not make 40K. And I appreciate you guys are maybe making 50, 60, 70, 80, even you're making the bag 100K, right? And beyond. I want you to understand you are not the norm. If you make over 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100K, you're not the norm. Okay, you are not the norm. Celia says if you only make 40K, you have no business trying to get married. No. This is what I'm talking about. We need to be very careful when we start saying these things. You are not the norm. The average salary for a majority of people is 33K. You need to understand that if you make more than that, you are part of the exceptional rule now. You're not normal. This is what I'm saying about having conversations and understanding nuances. You're not normal. You are now part of the exception. In fact, in the UK, the average salary is 28,000, I believe, right? In the US is what, 33? I think it's 33,000, right? Average salary. I think the UK is about 28, maybe just that. Okay. So we need to understand if you are above that, 74,000. When did it get 74,000? 2023. Maybe I need to do my research. I don't remember the average salary of being 74,000. Are you sure that's not a state? Are you sure that's not a state? 74,000 sounds extremely high. Maybe I need to do my research. I'll go and do some research. Maybe it's changed. Maybe it's increased. Thank you, Zaddy, for that. Yeah, give me a link and I can look it over. I'll look at the research. So maybe it's changed. Maybe it's changed since the last time I checked it. So things do change every year. So I appreciate that, Zaddy. Thank you. So yeah, no, it's understanding that you know, I think, you know, to say, and what I'm trying to say is, I think we need to have realistic conversations. Okay, what I'm trying to say is we need to have realistic conversations amongst ourselves. I think we need to have realistic conversation in terms of what is feasible and what's viable. And what we need to understand is that majority of people have to work together. And what I think should be happening and what conversation should be taking place is this. As a man, do not take advantage of your woman when she's working and you're working and she's doing majority of the household. Don't do it. You're going to burn her out, right? If you know she's going to work and you're going to work, and whether you earn different salaries, but if you're working similar hours, I want you to understand something. Do not burn her out by not contributing towards the home too. What we should be talking about is if you are an average man, quote unquote, earns an average salary, you're going to have to work with your wife. That's okay, right? That's okay. All right. That's cool. We get that. All right. Okay. Someone said the median is 59,428 now. Okay. That's the median. That's the average salary is at. I thought it was much lower, but I guess obviously it's changed. So maybe it's changed again. So maybe I was looking at the wrong date when I said 33. So I apologize for this. I said 33 and it's probably the wrong number now. So I'll need to double check it and find out what the actual thingy salary is as well. But I think I'm seeing 54. I'm seeing 58. I'm seeing 70. Well, I can see why people said 70 as well, because I'm seeing those numbers as well. So depends on what you're looking at. But yeah. So for me, again, having that real conversation, about finances is a real thing. A lot of people are struggling to be able to make ends meet solo. So there should be nothing wrong with working together. What it should be is, how best do we work together, and how best do I make your life better? What we should be encouraging these brothers to do is that when you've got a wife that's working with you and she's working her back and socks off, just like you are doing, how best can you serve her too? How can you aid and make sure that her life is a little bit more easy, a little bit more simpler? Are you doing the things that are filling up her love tank? Are you doing things that are, making her smile? Are you doing things that are making her load a little bit lighter? Right? That's what we should be having conversations. But condemning men, I was like, I don't think that really works. Personally.
Cause destruction. Men, we destroy. Women, they build. Even at a cellular level, they build.
Yeah. So I noticed that you did say that it's important that it's important that the men are getting a woman when they're financially together. Now, we understand that that's not always the case. A lot of brothers are getting married, it's not as often, but you got guys that get married right after college, some even in the military right after high school. I've seen a couple brothers like that as well. They're not in a position to be 100% or take 100% of the financial responsibility. Do you feel that that's a mistake for a man to take on that responsibility at that point in his life? Or is it okay to be at a point and be 50-50 temporarily and grow into that place as a man?
When a man chooses a woman, a man should be able to provide for that woman. Now, this doesn't mean shopping sprees and whatever you want. No, being able to keep a roof over her head, food in her mouth, clothes on her back. Now, that's just the physical. You also have to be there for emotionally. And the only way you can do that is by being there for yourself emotionally, healing from childhood traumas. You have to be there for her mentally. You have to be there for her spiritually. See, most men believe 50-50 is men that provide 100%, but when it comes to the mentally, physically, and spiritually, he isn't doing anything. And that's why the man that doesn't have money is able to get the woman of the man that does have money, because the man that didn't have money can connect with her at that emotional level.
So this is the thing, y'all. I'm hearing that, and that's empowering me. I feel good to hear you say that. Actually, very excited about that because that's my ambition. My ambition is to be this extremely strong man who's able to handle business on multiple fronts. But the average person, right, is people watching this right now. That's ridiculous. That's me doing everything. That's me having to be, shoulder all of the responsibilities. So what do you say to the man that's not comfortable with receiving that message from you?
Brother, to be honest, for the man that's uncomfortable taking in the information, he is a disease to his family on every level, financially, spiritually, mentally, intellectually. He is a dis-ease, meaning everywhere he goes, he brings a dis-ease type of energy.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those. We had to let that one breathe for a second.
You got to let that one breathe.
Praise
And it's a hard message to swallow, especially for a lot of brothers, because when I'm really seeing the responses that these brothers are putting in the comments, and even have talked to brothers who understand and believe this, what I hear is that these brothers on a deep level don't really believe it is possible to put themselves at a position where they can bear that level of a responsibility, whether that be they have never seen or been exposed to men who are able to create this level of abundance, and they've been entrenched in such poverty and has really adopted this scarcity mindset, maybe grown with a single mom that struggled, or grown in a household where everybody was penny pinching and it was that true struggle. So they don't even really see that as a possibility. So when you having this conversation with them, it's like, yo, inflation is kicking our behinds right now. You got the average, we need to make, 100, 120,000 as a household to be able to live comfortably.
Yo, what was that comment that you talked about the guy made on Yada's post?
I mean, that was so childish.
No, but see, the thing is, that gives you the collective mindset of the person that might be hearing this.
A brother in the comments put, I mean, we can't all be some rich guy picking, herbs in the jungle like you are, whatever the case is. Because obviously Yada's known for, putting out great supplements for the people. But
it was really, it really gave you an insight to his mindset, because that was, we can't all be happy. We can't all be financially free and capable to accomplish these feats that you have. That's what it meant. That's what, I mean, when you really think about that person, this person is smiling. This person got financial and time freedom. This person is picking their own herbs out their own garden. And we can't do that.
And I'm gonna be honest, every brother that we brought up here, and I told y'all this before we even had this conversation, because we have interviews, but I guess before, during, and after the show. And so the best conversation is off camera. And the reality of the situation is, y'all see the caliber of brothers we have on here. I like to get into the brother's family, and I like to ask how they managing that part of their life. I'm gonna be honest, I have not had one brother who has ever been on this Harley initiative.
So I think, obviously, like you said, I think I remember I had this quote in my head, that not everyone is kings. Not everyone is a king. I said, when you look at the Bible and you look at King David, was everybody a king? The king had his people, and the king had 37 strong men that he would fight with. And those 37 strong men would have other people underneath them. And there'll be other people underneath them, and other people underneath them, and people underneath that person. Not everybody is a king. And that's the reality of the situation. Not everybody is a king and can have kingship. So what I would say is, addressing the majority of people who are in a household where they're not kings, there is a way that they have to handle affairs. First and foremost, when you're handling, when you're handling links. Let me give you a link, bro, so you can quickly. You're at work. I don't know if you're at work, bro, but you can jump in real quick. I know you like to contribute something, bro. I think what I would say is that, because not every man's a king, there is a way that you're going to have to handle situations. For instance, let me tell you this now, right? You go, and this is why I said about, I think, learning how to lead without it being dominance. Because you see, if money is a reason why you're the leader, it often ends in dominance. Let me tell you something. Look, your leadership should be because you have good leadership skills in general. Money is one way to tell, but how do you handle the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the sexual affairs also? These are other areas of intimacy. How do you lead in those areas, right? And one of the ways also to understand is that if you don't make all the money in a relationship, you don't dominate. I'm so sorry. That's the reality of the situation. Maybe that's what he's talking to right now. You can't dominate. And you're not supposed to dominate. You're supposed to be assertive, but not dominant, right? You have to understand that, in that situation, you can't just be coming in there anyhow, anywho, anyway. That's not how it works, right? Unfortunately, and he said it actually, he said it as well later on. He says, a 50-50 person trying to have 100%, 100%, having 50-50 man wanting what 100% man is or wants, it doesn't make sense. And that is I was agreeing with him. I was like, you 50-50 and you trying to do what 100% man is doing, you got a problem. And that doesn't mean that you can't be a leader. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying you don't be a leader of your home. What I'm saying to you is you're gonna have to learn how to have assertive communication, meaning you don't just dominate. You're gonna have to learn how to negotiate. You're gonna have to learn how to speak assertively. You're gonna have to learn how to serve in a particular way as well. You're gonna have to learn how to service the partner because they're also working and having emotional distress and mental distress from working, just like you're doing. So your leadership looks slightly different because you're having to nurture in a completely different way. My biggest gripe, and I agree with him as well on Yada with this as well. My biggest gripe actually isn't the money aspect. The biggest gripe is the way that we actually lead in general. It's the way we lead in general. And it's things that I'm having to learn myself. And I'll do a separate video. I'm going to do a video a little bit later as well about this as well. I think it's and I think that's what I was pointing out, Elson, as well. It's the inferiority that places on a man, obviously, because he doesn't make 100% of the bills. But I would say that, again, in itself, that as a man, you want to be pushing for the best that you can be. If you know you're not pushing for the best that you can be, then you are failing. It's that simple. If you know if you're not pushing to be the best that you can be, you are failing. If you're not striving to improve all the time, you are failing. That is a point blank. I want to argue about that. I want to argue about that. I agree with Yada there as well, right? And so me personally, you're doing 50-50. I want you to understand, you trying to do 50-50, but trying to be the ultimate boss in this relationship ain't gonna work. You want a 50-50, you being the ultimate boss isn't gonna work. It doesn't mean that you don't lead, doesn't mean that you can't be the lead, doesn't mean that that there shouldn't be a leader relationship. What I'm saying is you cannot be the ultimate boss. It's not gonna work in that respect, right? It's going to make things harder. So yeah, I'll leave it on that point. So I'm sure when we do a deeper breakdown, I'm sure more people want to have a conversation and say their piece as well on this subject. We'll have to get different points of view as well. So I'll probably do a live on a Friday during the day, to talk about this, because I think there's more to discuss. I think there's a lot more to discuss and break down on the subject. So we'll get on it. We'll get on it. But I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. We'll talk some more a little bit later. Much appreciation, and we'll see you again soon.